Today on Cheese Matters, we're looking at eye cheeses. And eye cheeses are most commonly known as Swiss-style cheeses, the ones with the little holes or eyes in the centre of them. They are a cooked cheese, which means during the process of making that they're actually heated, and that produces a really lovely satiny smooth texture and that sweet nutty characteristic. The eyes in the cheese are actually produced when carbon dioxide is actually produced and forms bubbles in the cheese and forces its way into making little holes and round shapes in the cheese. They're sweet, they're nutty, they're supple, they actually melt beautifully. You can choose from Swiss-style cheeses like Tasmanian Heritage St Clair, Edam or Gouda, which actually only have very little pinhole size eyes but are still sweet and quite almost creamy in flavour. The Gouda is a larger yellow wheel, and the Edam comes in a characteristic red wax, and I've just got a nice little wedge of it here. Tilsit, raclette and Gruyere are naturally rinded ones that come from the Alps, and we actually make some great varieties of them here from Heidi Farm, and I've got a lovely Tilsit there that's great for melting over potatoes and so on. So today I'm going to actually make some beautiful Teacup cheese soufflés. The basis of this cheese soufflé today is Tasmanian Heritage St Clair. It's an Emmental style cheese, but it's made locally, and it's got a beautiful sort of sweet and nutty flavour. It comes cut from the wheel into wedges, and you do need to cut off the rind before you use it. So I need about 125 grams in this recipe, which is about half this wedge of cheese. If you're clever, you'll actually cut the cheese into a nice piece and put this part on your cheese platter for later. So we'll just grate that. Okay, that's all grated. And really, when you're making something like a soufflé, you do need to have all your ingredients ready to go because time is of the essence. So now I'm going to make the white sauce, which is the basis to the soufflé. There's 40 grams of butter in here. You most commonly make a white sauce to serve over something like cauliflower cheese. It is basically thickened milk, and we thicken it using a little bit of flour. So melt the butter first. It's quite important that when you add the flour that you cook it in the butter for about a minute or so until it has really cooked out, and those little starch granules will open up when you add the milk. That's what thickens the milk. So it's an important process. Once the butter has melted, just add the flour, 2 tablespoons of flour to about 40 grams of butter. It's about equal weights, 2 tablespoons of flour to 2 tablespoons of butter. And I'm just going to cook that down a little. This is called a roux. It's a French term for this thickening paste. For the next step, everyone does this differently. Some people add their milk in dribs and drabs. I like to add it all at once. That's the way I was taught to do it. Add it all at once so the temperature in the pan doesn't go up or down gradually. It happens almost immediately. And then mix it in and allow it to heat. Again, those starch granules will start to swell and will thicken in no time. At this point we can add some mustard, and I've got a beautiful Dijon mustard here, about a tablespoon of that. So that's thickened now. I'm just going to let that cool in a bowl over here. So we'll just transfer it into another bowl. You could let it cool in the saucepan if you wanted to, but I'm wanting to get it to cool down a little bit quicker than that. And now for the eggs. So we need 4 eggs. I'm just going to separate them. And you can add the yolks to the white sauce mixture. Oh, it's always fun catching those yolks. Here comes number 4. It is really important with soufflés that the egg whites are scrupulously clean, so no shells and no egg yolk. If you do happen to get one in there, just fish it out with the eggshell. It's the easiest way to get it out. So I'm going to whisk the yolks over here into the mixture. And mix in the cheese. And we're going to season this with a little bit of salt and some pepper. The pepper I'm using is actually a ground white pepper, and this is a perfect pepper to use for this type of dish because you actually don't want the dark black pepper spots throughout your mix. Now at this stage, if you need to tend to your guests or make things in advance, you can do it up until this point and then just beat the egg whites just before they go into the oven. So soufflés are actually quite easy to do if you think of it in 2 stages. The white sauce already done, the egg whites separated, and just beat them at the last minute. Another thing to remember is that the egg whites are actually best at room temperature. You're going to get far more volume out of them if they're at room temperature. So leave them out for an hour or 2 covered with Glad wrap and they'll be absolutely fine. So into this Wonder machine, and we're going to whip them until stiff peaks form. Okay, our egg whites are nicely stiffly beaten, and you can see when the little peaks can pop up, you know it's ready to go. The trick here is to take just a small amount of egg white first and mix that into the cheese mixture, just to loosen it a little bit. And I do like to use a rubber spatula, or you could use a large metal spoon if you like, but just be very gentle. You've spent a lot of time putting in a lot of air. You don't want to knock that out. Tip in the rest. What happens with the soufflé is the heat is going to cause all the air that's been trapped to expand, and that's what makes it rise and gives it its beautiful lift. I always think it's like shaving foam when I'm doing this job. And even though you need to work quickly, you do need to make sure that those little lumps of egg white are well incorporated, otherwise you're going to get white spots throughout your soufflé. Now for a bit of fun, I'm actually serving these in little teacups. Or correctly, they're cappuccino cups, but cappuccino cheese soufflés just does not sound right. So just spoon in the mixture, remembering that it's going to rise, so leave a little room. I should mention I actually buttered the dishes. If you don't have cups that can go in the oven, then certainly use soufflé dishes. Now into the oven at 180 degrees Celsius, and I put them up towards the top of the oven. I actually know the centre will be fine, and we sit back and cross our fingers that they're going to rise like little beauties. Come and have a look at these. I feel so clever. Look how much they've risen. They're just beautiful. But there's no time to waste. Make sure guests are sitting down, all waiting for their cheese soufflé to be delivered to them promptly. Have the plates all ready, and I've got here some beautiful New Seasons asparagus with some lemon and olive oil. Pop the little cup on top. And what an elegant entree to start a meal. For more information on cheese, go to cheesematters.com.au, your complete guide to cheese.